Tonight on the News Hour, Kebbi Meningitis death toll hits 26 as outbreak spreads. Lawmakers urge Central Bank of Nigeria to reverse ATM fee hike over financial hardships. Lagos traders dismiss claims of falling food prices amid high cost of living. Uganda deploys troops to South Sudan amidst rising civil war fears. Hello, good evening and welcome to the News Hour on Trust TV. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. We start in Kebbi, where the state government on Tuesday confirmed that it has recorded 26 deaths from suspected cases of meningitis, which broke out in 3 local government areas of the state. While addressing journalists at the Malaria Control Center in Birnin Kebbi, the Commissioner for Health, Yunus Ismail, says 15 deaths were recorded in Gwandu, 6 in Jega, 4 in Aleru, and 1 in Arugungu local government area of the state, where 248 suspected cases of meningitis have so far been recorded. He said isolation camps have been opened in Jega, Aleru, and Gwandu, while 11 samples have been taken for confirmation at the laboratory in Abuja, while adding that of this number, 2 samples were returned negative, while the state is still awaiting further results on the remaining 9 samples. He said in the last 7 weeks, the State Ministry of Health was saddled with the unfortunate situation of the outbreak of the disease, with rising number of cases more than usual. The Commissioner warned members of the public against self-medication while urging all to immediately go to the nearest hospital for tests whenever they are sick to confirm their status. To the House of Representatives, where lawmakers have called on the Central Bank of Nigeria to suspend its planned increase in ATM transaction charges and the halting of free ATM withdrawals for customers of other banks. This came after a motion of urgent public importance was raised by Marcus Onobun from Edo State. Here's the latest from today's plenary.
The planned increase in ATM transaction charges alongside the halting of free ATM withdrawals for customers using ATMs from banks other than their own represents a significant shift in the banking landscape. Representative Onobun expressed concern over the growing economic hardships facing Nigerians. He highlighted issues such as rising inflation, fuel price hikes, higher electricity tariffs, and excessive banking charges, all of which, he says, are putting pressure on the average Nigerian's disposable income.
Worried that the imposition of additional ATM withdrawal charges will further limit the financial inclusion of Nigerians by discouraging low-income earners from accessing bank services, thereby contradicting the CBN financial inclusion agenda. Cognizant of the fact that the banking sector has continued to record significant profits, imposing further charges on customers without corresponding improvements in service delivery or infrastructure is unjustifiable.
The lawmaker believes that the additional charges on ATM withdrawals could discourage low-income earners from utilizing banking services, which undermines the CBN's financial inclusion goals. He also criticized the banking sector, noting that while banks continue to post significant profits, they still impose additional charges without improving their services. The House has also set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the state of oil and gas pipelines across Nigeria. The committee is tasked with examining the causes and impacts of frequent vandalism and operational failures, as well as assessing the effectiveness of security measures and government interventions.
Observe that the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited has intensified efforts to combat crude oil theft, uncovering 19 illegal pipeline connections and 58 illegal refineries in a single week in January 2025. Believe that the deterioration of oil and gas pipeline network not only threatens Nigeria's energy security, but also undermines the country's potential for sustainable economic development.
The committee will also consult with host communities and civil society organizations to create a comprehensive action plan. In another development, the House has urged the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) to compel internet service providers to block websites hosting obscene and pornographic content. Representative Dalhotu, in a motion of urgent national importance, noted that cyber pornography is a growing global problem, lamenting that Nigeria has yet to take concrete steps to address it. He warned that access to such content could lead to societal harm, including marital problems, the promotion of adultery, and unrealistic expectations in relationships.
Concerned deeply that some of the immediate effects of viewing pornographic contents include A. Causing deception in marriage and which may later on affect family life. B. Promoting adultery, prostitution, and many oral expectations that can result in dangerous, promiscuous behavior. C. Leading to addiction, escalation, desensitization, and the acting out sexually by one person. D. Change of attitude toward oneself and his family.
The House also passed a bill aimed at recognizing and protecting human rights defenders in Nigeria. The bill, which strengthens the government's capacity to protect these individuals, passed its second reading earlier today.
Obligations of the state and non-state actors of this bill. One is the state take measures to ensure the safety and security of human rights defenders, and the non-state actors do not engage in acts of intimidation, violence, or discrimination against human rights defenders.
It is expected that the bill will provide legal protections for those defending human rights in Nigeria.
To Plateau State now, where farmers and herders in Bokos and other local government areas of Plateau State have been warned by the Nigerian military against incitement that can lead to conflict ahead of this year's farming season. The warning was handed down to both parties at a military civil peace dialogue in Bokos town of Bokos local government area. Bokos local government area in Plateau State has been at the center of recent conflicts between herders and farmers in the area, a crisis which has resulted in the deaths of many and the destruction of properties worth hundreds of millions of naira.
Safe Haven remains fully committed to ensuring peace and security in Plateau States and beyond. Over the months, Operation Safe Haven has intensified efforts in securing communities, preventing attacks, and responding decisively to security threats. However, as we move towards another farming season, we must all recognize that security is a collective responsibility.
Staying with security-related matters, troops of Operation Safe Haven have rescued 7 kidnapped victims in Riom local government area of Plateau State. According to the spokesperson of the operation, Major Samson Zakom, the rescue follows sustained offensive conducted by troops of Operation Safe Haven on the ongoing Operation Lafian Jamaat at Tekar High Grounds in Ganawuri district of Riom local government area of Plateau State. Major Zakom says the operations carried out based on intelligence reports revealed that kidnappers kept some victims abducted along the Jos Ganawuri Road on March 7, 2025 in the area. Moving on to some of the day's other news away from Plateau State. Let's take a look at this development happened elsewhere in another part of the country, where troops of the Joint Task Force Operation Fansan Yamma under 1st Brigade Mobile Strike Team have killed a terrorist kingpin identified as Babangida and several other terrorists at Dajin Yamma in Kauranamoda local government area of Zamfara State. A statement by the coordinator, Joint Media Coordination Center, Lieutenant Colonel Abubakar Abdullahi, says the feat was recorded after the troops successfully conducted offensive operations against identified terrorist enclaves. It said during the operation, troops engaged the terrorists at the hideout of notorious kingpin Dang Saadia where many terrorists were neutralized through coordinated air and ground assaults. Among those neutralized was a key kingpin identified as Babangida. Items recovered from Dansadia's hideout include one locally made pistol, one locally made revolver, and one PKT magazine. In addition, troops successfully cleared another hideout at Gidaruga, where they recovered a pair of woodland camouflage uniforms, a pair of boots, and Bafeng radio charges. After spending several years in captivity, 75 hostages have been handed over to the Borno State government at the Maimalari cantonment. The individuals were held by insurgents for years in various hideouts across Borno State. Here's the report.
The handover of the hostages is part of sustained efforts to enforce and maintain peace in the Lake Chad region. The rescued individuals, largely women and children, smile as they regain their freedom after enduring years in captivity with terrorists in Sambisa forest. The Borno State government happily received the rescued individuals and committed to supporting them and facilitating their reunion with family members.
As part of our ongoing clearance efforts, troops from 21 Special Armor Brigade and 199 Special Forces Battalion recently conducted successful offensive operations under Operation Desert Sanity 4 in the Sambisa forest. Key terrorist enclaves in Ukuba, Ijimia, Sabi Huba, Garin Fallujah, and Gobara were cleared, leading to the rescue of 75 civilians, including 7 adult males, 34 women, and 34 children.
The military used the opportunity to call on marauding terrorists to surrender or pay the supreme price for their actions.
This concept of handing over rescued women and children and giving them proper care is quite laudable. We will continue to sustain this, and we urge our dear brothers and sisters that are still in the bush to do us or do the country a favor on understanding that peace is inevitable.
We are going to provide them with services. We provide services like livelihood support. We provide services like counseling services, mental health and psychosocial support, livelihood program for the women, and also educational services for the children, so that we enroll them back to school when they go back to their communities.
Other families with loved ones still in captivity remain hopeful as the armed forces have pledged to sustain efforts to rescue them and ensure peace throughout the Lake Chad region. Beto Skuruti, Trust TV News, Maiduguri.
Vehicular movement along the only access road to Bomadi and other coastal communities in Delta State was brought to a standstill as residents of Oduapori in Pantani local government area of the state staged a massive protest. The demonstration was in response to the brutal attack on a 28-year-old motorcyclist whose hand was reportedly amputated by a suspected herdsman. The protesters, armed with placards bearing several inscriptions, expressed their frustration over the persistent attacks allegedly perpetrated by the herdsmen in the area. Residents have vowed to sustain their protests until the authorities take decisive action to protect them from further attacks. Speaking to journalists, the President General of Oduapori Community, Tangod Adu, condemned the attack, describing it as the latest in a series of violent incidents in the area. To Lagos State now, where the Lagos Police Command has announced a significant progress in combating crime following the recent appointment of the Commissioner of Police in the state, Jimo Moshood. Updating journalists in a press conference at the Lagos headquarters of the police force in Ikeja, the Police Public Relations Officer, CSP Benjamin Hundeyin, disclosed that several arrests have been made in connection with crimes such as armed robbery, kidnapping, cultism, rape, and child abuse. More in this report.
According to Hundeyin, the command has intensified its efforts to ensure the safety of Lagos residents, stressing that criminals will have no hiding place under the leadership of CP Jimoh Moshood. He also confirmed the arrest of foreign nationals involved in a high-profile kidnapping case where one of their own was abducted under false pretenses.
During the week, we arrested 2 foreign nationals, 2 Pakistanis. What happened was they invited another Pakistani to come over to Lagos to get a job as a chef. And they paid for his ticket. The other Pakistani was based in Kano. They paid for his ticket to come to Lagos, and immediately arrived in Lagos. They took him to a hotel somewhere on Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, and tied him up and requested for 50 million naira before he could gain his freedom. So he called his boss back in Kano, who was able to send 1 million naira just for him to buy more time. And he contacted the police. The Ikeja division swung into action. The Pakistani was rescued. The other 2 Pakistanis, they are actually a total of 7 in number. 2 were arrested and in custody now, while 5 fled the scene. But efforts are on to get those wanted Pakistanis. And of course, being foreign nationals, they were transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department for further investigation. And definitely their country, the embassy of their country, will be informed to let them know what actually happened with these people.
The Lagos State Police Command assured of a thorough investigation into the mysterious death of Adedamola Ogunbode, a graduate of Lagos State University LASU, who was reported missing on January 16, 2025, before his body was later discovered buried inside a church.
Church at the center of all of this, where some people allege that the missing boy was killed and buried at, has been sealed. And the reason for it being sealed for now, the other reasons could come up, but for now, the reason for it being sealed is to protect it. Because we have intelligence that some people want to burn down the church out of vengeance, and we don't want that to happen. It's still a suspected crime scene. We might still need to go over it, go over that scene over and over again for us to get things of evidential value. So the church has been sealed for now to prevent it from being burnt. And we'll assure the public that updates will be given about the investigation or on the progress we have made as soon as we get these updates.
Undain reiterated the command's commitment to eradicating all forms of criminality and ensuring a safer environment for all residents.
To Adamawa State now, where the Joint Action Committee of Academic and Non-Academic Staff Unions of Adamawa State-owned tertiary institutions have begun an indefinite strike effective March 11. The action comes after the lapse of a 7-working-day warning strike that ended on March 10. According to a circular jointly signed by Mariam Abdullahi, the chairman of the Joint Action Committee, and Musa Yakubu, the Joint Action Committee secretary, the strike is in response to the Adamawa State government's failure to address the union's demands. The JAC directed all its members to embark on an indefinite strike action, emphasizing the need for full compliance with the directive. The strike involves staff from various institutions, including Adamawa State Polytechnic, the Adamawa State College of Health Sciences and Technology, and the College of Education, among others. The unions are seeking the implementation of the consolidated tertiary institution salary structure and the new wage, as well as the reversal of over-deductions. You're watching Trust TV's News Hour. Coming up ahead, Kaduna's booming cowhorn market provides lifeline for youths. More on this and many more stories up ahead in just a moment. Join us again. Welcome back to the News Hour. Let's take another look at our headlines. Kebbi Meningitis death toll hits 26 as outbreak spreads across local government areas. Lawmakers in the House of Representatives call on the Central Bank of Nigeria to reverse ATM fee hikes over financial hardships. Hundreds of protesters gathered at the National Assembly complex on Tuesday in a show of support for Senate President Godswill Akpabio while condemning the actions and statements of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduaghan, who represents Kogi Central. The demonstrators, carrying placards with various inscriptions, chanted solidarity songs in favor of the Senate President. Here's the report.
Despite a heavy security presence, the anti-Akpoti-Oduaghan protesters blocked key sections of the National Assembly entrance, causing significant traffic disruption. Among the protesting groups were members of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NAS, who urged critics to stop distracting the Senate from its legislative responsibilities.
They should keep to what they are doing. The Nigerians are proud of them, Nigerian students are proud of them, and we want to also advise them not to look at those distracting them, the distractors, but they should focus on the aim and objectives of the National Assembly and to see how to position things, bring issues, deliberate on issues that will add to the progress of Nigeria.
The reason why this woman came on with this agenda, she has been in a committee of local content, and she padded money, 30 billion, in her committee. Because of what is going in the Senate, they have to ask her to step down. You can see there was a phone call she made that if I thought they would call her back to local content, the issue will just die.
A separate group of women also joined the protest, labeling Akpoti-Oduaghan a serial blackmailer and a disgrace to womanhood. Demonstrators voiced the support for her 6-month suspension, accusing her of using sexual harassment allegations against the Senate President as a tactic to divert attention from corruption claims.
We, the United Women for Good Governance, have discovered that this false allegation of sexual harassment has a very strong political undertone, heavily propelled in collaboration with Senator Natasha by those who are interested in the office of the Senate President at all costs. We, the United Women for Good Governance, hereby send a strong warning to these evil planners that what they are doing is nothing by trying to stab democracy with a fire dagger, which must be resisted by all well-meaning Nigerians.
That Senator Natasha is a threat to democracy is an understatement. It would have been expected that a certain dubious character should only be visible at the low arena of life. But one is still in shock that at the very top of good life, such a Senate, such a way of life could be witnessed being propelled by a woman.
The protesters called for an end to what they described as deliberate attempts to undermine the Senate's work.
Stay with developments in the National Assembly. Meanwhile, the Senate has asked the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct by-elections to fill the vacancies in Edo Central and Anambra South Central districts. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, announced this during plenary on Tuesday, officially declaring the vacancies. The upper chamber had declared the Edo Central seat vacant in 2024 following the inauguration of Monday Okpebolo as governor of Edo State in December after his election into office. Similarly, the Anambra South seat has remained unoccupied since the passing of Senator Ifeanyi Ubah in July of last year. INEC had previously stated in January this year that it was awaiting a formal request from the Nigerian Senate before proceeding with a by-election for the Anambra South senatorial seat. With both senatorial districts currently unrepresented in the upper legislative chamber, the Senate President urged INEC to conduct the elections to restore representation for the affected senatorial districts.
But I thought we had earlier done it. But just to further declare vacant or announce the vacancies already existing in Anambra State, in our late brother's senatorial district, late distinguished Senator Ifeanyi Ubah, and also our departed colleague, who is now a governor in Edo State. Those two seats are hereby declared vacant, and we urge INEC to immediately conduct, in line with the Constitution, elections to fill those two vacancies.
To Kaduna State, where cow horn market remains a lucrative business in the state as many sellers continue to smile to the bank. While many continue to view the business as a menial job that doesn't pay much, operators claim it pays the bill on a regular basis. Trust TV's Bello Musa, who visited the location, reports that hundreds of youths have ventured into the business, thus reducing joblessness, especially among their peers.
Hamisu Abdullahi has been in this business for decades. He buys the horn from butchers and prepares them for onward supply to end users. When we buy the horns, we remove the flesh and skull and then cook them. After that, we remove their inner part and prepare them for sale. Marketing the horn is never a problem to them, as people come from far and near to buy them. People, including Chinese, come from Lagos to buy them. We have the white and black horns, but the white is rare and more expensive than the black one, which is common. According to Abdullahi, the horn is used to produce a variety of products. We don't know what they produce from the horns, but we are told they make cups, hair ribbons, cuffs, and other things. Having spent years in the business, Hamisu Abdullahi says he has recorded appreciable success. I have more than 30 people working for me here, and I pay them. The business has taken many youths off the street. Hence, they are therefore appealing to the government to help them boost the business in order to help take more youths off the street and also improve revenue generation in Kaduna State. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
Despite recent claims of a drop in the price of food commodities in the country, in Lagos, many marketers continue to describe the reality as one of completely different situation on the ground as Victoria Tokolo visits many markets in Lagos State, where traders report a near drop in some of the food items, with many buyers saying there is no drop to be recorded as prices continue to remain high. Her report.
As the fasting period continues in the country by the two major religious groups, the prices of foodstuff has continued to remain high, with some even increasing in prices. This is despite reports the food prices have reduced across the nation. Trust TV's visited some markets in Lagos where traders and other residents aim their minds.
There's nothing come down for anything. All the market has the price is still very, very costly. Nothing drop. Pepper is very cost. Juice is very cost. Garri is still cost. So no one, oil is still cost. No one is still going go down. Nobody I tell you say don't drop. It drop for how much price? You are don't tired to listen all those things. People are sitting at home. I tell you say don't. Everything has gone down. Come to the market, you go hear the price.
Presently, the price of the potato is it's two types of bag. That is a long bag, big bag. That one the price is 42,000, and there is normal bag. That one is 26,000. So that's how the price will be. But what is causing the price to go high like that is transportation.
I thought there is nothing that comes down. Among the food stock, there is nothing that comes down. No pepper itself. Tomato that's come down before. Today, tomato is increased again. There is nothing that comes down. So please, you people should help us to beg our governor to make everything come down cheaper for us people.
That what that they are saying is price of things are coming down. That is a big lie. There's nothing that is coming down in the market. Look at the pepper. I'm a dry fish seller. I used to buy this dry fish before the Ramadan and the Christian fasting. I used to buy it at the rate of 10,000. Now I'm buying it at the rate of 25,000 one nylon.
The continuous rise in food prices in the state and across the country is largely attributed to high cost of transportation. Traders are therefore calling on the federal government to take proactive measures to reduce fuel prices in the country, which in turn would facilitate a more affordable and efficient transportation of goods across the country.
Staying in Lagos, the Lagos State Command of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps has restated its commitment to peace and crime prevention during the holy month of Ramadan. The Corps disclosed this at a Ramadan lecture in Lagos, which focused on addressing the country's security challenges, particularly issues related to kidnapping and other social vices. The report.
The Lagos State Commandant of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Adedotun Keshinro, who spoke at the Ramadan lecture, emphasized the importance of using the Ramadan period to sensitize the public on the need to embrace the teachings of the Holy Quran as a means of preventing crime. He reiterated that Islam does not support any form of criminal activity and urged all people to uphold peace and righteousness.
Thanks to everybody, all citizens of Nigeria, if you are not a Christian, you are a Muslim, at least majority. So we should all of us, in the spirit of this period, try and be in introspection by making sure that we do not continue to support the commission of these vices.
He highlighted that the agency's role extends beyond law enforcement, stressing that moral reawakening is crucial in tackling insecurity during Ramadan. Keshinro called for collective efforts in crime prevention and encouraged citizens to embrace peace and uphold moral values that promote societal harmony.
We are providing security for life and property of the people, and part of what we have taken as responsibility is to organize this program so that we can preach to the people that we are not only providing security, we are also appealing to their conscience to guide against the commission of crimes that are troubling the society.
A leading Islamic scholar, Nuruddin Ibrahim, reinforced the sanctity of human life in Islam. He stressed that no one has the right to take another person's life, adding that Islam values the protection of life and condemns all forms of violence.
You cannot just take life in Islam. It is sinful. It is a great sin. It is a major sin, a criminal offense in Islam for you to take life for whatever reason. You are not allowed to take life.
For many, this period is a dual blessing for Nigeria, as both Muslims and Christians are fasting. They emphasize the need for unity, love, and peaceful coexistence among all citizens.
Being a Muslim or being a Christian, ritual killing generally is not encouraging. We should all desist from it. Any act that can bring sadness to your colleagues, your human being.
Ramadan lecture served as a platform to promote religious values, peaceful cohabitation, and crime prevention, with calls for collective efforts in ensuring a more secure and united society.
The United Nations Population Fund's resident representative, Khoisan Kouaou, has expressed the commitment of the fund to supporting initiatives that will improve the well-being of women, children, and vulnerable populations in Zamfara State. Kouaou discloses during his visit to Governor Dauda Lawal at the Government House in Gusau, the Zamfara State capital.
The resident representative of the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, Khoisan Kouaou, highlighted priority areas for Zamfara State and assured Governor Dauda Lawal of continued support, particularly in data-driven policy making, capacity building for health workers, and initiative geared towards reducing maternal mortality rates in the state. He said the fund will support vulnerable people and the fight against gender-based violence by creating awareness towards preventing the menace in Zamfara State.
Also, on the fistula, we are the agency which is supporting the government in all the states and the central federal government also in the capacity building, the training of the surgeon and all the staff on the fistula centers. So this is something that we can certainly support with as soon as possible. We can also, we had some conversation even at the federal level with the National Health Insurance Agency. And we have also have confirmation on the ground here that the NHAI is coming to support the fistula repairs. So our work now would be, we can continue to support, but in another capacity with the rehabilitation and the reinsertion of the survivors of fistula.
Governor Dauda Lawal of Zamfara State appealed to the UNFPA to support the state in overcoming its challenges, especially in reproductive health and the empowerment of women.
Zamfara State, has faced a lot of challenges and is still facing some of these challenges. As responsible government, we are making conscious efforts, especially in the health sector, to make sure the desired attention is given to that sector. And one key issue that is of importance to us is about women. And we are really concerned about so many issues that women are facing in the state.
Both parties committed to ensure that vulnerable populations in the state receive the needed support to live better lives.
You're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. We'll be back with more news in just a moment. Join us again. Welcome back to the news. Now let's talk business, as oil marketers under the auspices of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron, have urged the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority to protect industry players against, quote, sudden reduction of petrol prices. On February 26, 2025, the $20 billion refinery owned by Africa's richest man and industrialist Aliko Dangote slashed the ex-depot price of petrol from 890 naira to 825 naira per litre. Under the new arrangement, customers purchase the premium commodity at 860 naira per litre at selected outlets in Lagos, 870 in the southwest and 880 in the north and 890 in the south and in the southeast. Almost immediately, the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited reduced its retail price of petrol from 945 naira to 860 naira in Lagos, with a similar price reduction reflected at NNPCL outlets in other states of the Federation. The Petron boss, Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry, said members are buying products from every possible source, adding that the size of the losses anticipated by unstable prices can only be imagined. Gillis-Harry demanded a liberalized trade with a mix of local production and importation, saying, quote, nobody should be left out or left behind in the value chain. African startups raised $408 million between January and February, the highest amount since 2021, when they raised $400 million. According to a report, the big deal, which tracks funding of $100,000 and above, despite raising $119 million in February, they are still on track to have a great year so far. In February, the number of $100,000 and above deals announced remains lower than the average of the previous 12 months and then previous Februarys since 2021. In 2025, the 7 largest deals, representing 80% of the total, were all either fintech or logistics and transport deals in line with 2024 trends. The Economic Community of West African States has activated a standby force to curb terrorism and other trans-border crimes in the sub-region. The Minister of Defense, Muhammad Badaru, who disclosed this in Abuja on Tuesday at the 43rd Ordinary Meeting of ECOWAS Committee Chiefs of Defense Staff, said the economic growth of the region is dependent on stable peace. The minister added that there is a need for members of ECOWAS to close ranks against all forms of threats against the region. On January 29, 2025, ECOWAS recognized the exit of 3 of its former members, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger Republic, upon the expiration of a 1-year notice. Their departure from the bloc has fractured the region and is leaving the ECOWAS with an uncertain future. Staying with development on the continent, Uganda has deployed an unknown number of troops to South Sudan in a bid to protect the fragile government of President Salva Kiir as a tense rivalry with his deputy threatens a return to civil war in the East African nation. A spokesperson for Uganda's military says the move is to support the government of South Sudan against a possible rebel advance on the city. In deploying Ugandan soldiers to Juba, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni moved as a guarantor of the peace process that keeps Salva Kiir and Riek Machar together in a delicate government of national unity. Kiir and Museveni are allies, and Museveni has in the past intervened in the South Sudan conflict to keep Salva Kiir in power. The deployment of Ugandan troops to South Sudan underscored the rising tensions in the oil-producing country that has been plagued by political instability and violence since it gained independence in 2011. The U.S. on Sunday ordered non-emergency government personnel to leave Juba. A boat capsized in southwestern Congo and killed 25 people, many of them football players. The players were returning from a match in Mushi City in Mai-Ndombe province on Sunday when the vessel capsized on the Kwa River, according to Alexis Mputu, the provincial spokesperson. Mputu suggested that the poor visibility at night may have played a factor. At least 30 other people survived the incident, said Renako Tuwabe, the local administrator of Mushi territory. Deadly boat accidents are quite common in the Central African country. Late-night travel and overcrowded vessels are often blamed for such accidents. Authorities have struggled to enforce maritime regulations. Cyclone Jude crashed through Mozambique on Monday and winds of up to 120 kilometers per hour and torrential rain. It caused flooding and widespread damage to infrastructure, leaving people homeless and without power. The Mozambique National Institute of Meteorology says the tropical storm made its landfall over the district of Mossoril in Nampula province in the early hours of the morning. Locals in Nacala, a city in the province, were taken aback by its severity. The situation in the region is already fragile and humanitarian response capacities overstretched following 2 recent cyclones, one in December and the other in January this year. The United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, described the situation as, quote, very bad, and said children were particularly vulnerable. Seven members of the medical team that treated Argentine soccer legend Diego Maradona before his death will go on trial for homicide starting Tuesday in Buenos Aires. The case revolves around allegations that negligence by the healthcare professionals contributed to the World Cup winner's death in 2020 at the age of 60, which triggered an outpouring of grief in his native Argentina and across the world. Maradona suffered a heart attack at his rented house in Tigre, an affluent district north of Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, where he had been recovering from surgery to remove a blood clot on his brain weeks earlier. Now, widely perceived as one of the sport's greatest players, Maradona famously led Argentina to victory in the 1986 World Cup and inspired his compatriots with a rags-to-riches story that vaulted him from poverty in the hard-scrappled outskirts of Buenos Aires to international reverence. Maradona had struggled with drug addiction, obesity and alcoholism for decades and reportedly came close to death in 2000 and in year 2004. But prosecutors concluded that were it not for the negligence of the doctors, his death could have been avoided. Let's get some more in sports with Adeni Ajishafe.
Nigeria's under-18 and under-23 men's and ball teams has arrived Bulgaria for the 5th IHF Emerging Nations Championship and the IHF Trophies Intercontinental Phase. The under-23 team, led by Coach Solomon Yola, will compete in the IHF Emerging Nations Championship in Varna, Bulgaria from 11 to 15 March. They face the United States of America, Moldova and Azerbaijan in Group B. Notably, the team has previously encountered two of these opponents, having lost to the Americans in 2019 and defeated Azerbaijan in 2023. Meanwhile, the under-18 team, under coach Emeka Namani, will participate in the IHF Trophies Intercontinental Phase in Pristina, Kosovo. They are grouped with Kosovo and New Caledonia in Group B and will begin their campaign against New Caledonia. And in football, the Super Eagles will open camp for their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying match day 5 encounter against the Amavubi of Rwanda. The encounter, slated for Amahoro Stadium, Kigali, on 24th March, will have invited players flying directly to Kigali from their respective bases. Meanwhile, Super Eagles head coach Eric Shell has named goalkeepers Stanley Wabali and Kaode Bankole, defenders William Ekong, Calvin Bassi and Olaoluwaina, midfielders Alessi Wobi and Wilfred Indidi, forwards Ademola Lookman, Victor Osimhen and Simon Moses in his final list of 23 players for the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying matches against Rwanda and Zimbabwe. Also in the final list are defenders Bruno Yemichi and Bright Osayi Samuel, midfielders Rafael Onyedika and Al-Hassan Yusuf, and forwards Samuel Chukwueze and Sadiq Umar. Czech Republic-based defender Igor Obu makes the final cut alongside home-based midfielder Papadani Mustafa and Belgium-based forward Tolu Arokodare. Nigeria will confront Group C leaders Rwanda in Kigali on 24th March before taking on Zimbabwe's Warriors at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium, Uyo, on 25th March. The Super Eagles stands 5th in Group C with 3 points. That's Sport News. I'm Adeni Ajishafe.
And with that, we wrap up our offering for you on the News Hour tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Do well to stay in touch with us across our social media platforms. And of course, for the latest news programs and documentaries, check out our website, trusttv.com. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for your time and good night.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.